Revelation of Clay, Part 6, Return.
So I was up at 5 for another red sky sunrise, and it was put on my heart to try and make it home for Mother's Day. However, I still wanted to make it to I still wanted to go to Turtle River and Lake Itasca, so I wasn't quite sure I was going to make it, but I knew that I wanted to go. It was time for I did what I needed to do up here at the Peace Gardens. I've reclaimed the chapel, okay, and it's time to head towards home. But I still had some stops to make. My first stop on the way out was back at the Heritage Center to give them one last shot. Like I spoke before in the previous, on the way up, and even while I was there, the Heritage Center was closed. And like I said, I wonder if they're ever open. As I made it to Devil's Lake, I decided I'd break my fast and eat breakfast. I was hungry. I had been fasting since the La Quinta breakfast from the trip up. And I figured, why not? Let's stop and have breakfast. And I saw the sign for Mr. and Mrs. J's. So I pulled in and had breakfast there. After breakfast, I made my way to Turtle River and parked next to the spot, next to the tree and ravine where where the vision was. And it was then that I noticed, or I looked at the map and saw that the ravine was called Raven's Ravine, or Raven Ravine. And it brought to mind 1 Kings 17. Then the word of the Lord came to Eliah. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith Ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. So I blessed the ravine, and I walked the path around Raven's Ravine with the spirit of Eliah. I recorded 7,340 steps around Raven Ravine Trail. When I was done, I wanted to stay longer and camp and hang out and enjoy the peacefulness of the park. But I felt the urge to press on. I wanted to get home, and I still needed to go to Lake Itasca, and the day was going to get short on me real fast. I arrived at Lake Itasca's north entrance at 4 p.m. It's a self-service entrance, as I can leave my entry fee in an envelope. The entry fee was $7, but the smallest denomination I had was a $10 bill. As I opened the envelope to put the bill in, I noticed a tick just inside the mouth of the envelope. And I mean, it was just inside there. And I kind of tried to flick it out, but it just kind of drove it deeper into the envelope. So I shook it, and everything I did just drove it further in. So I grabbed the $10 bill, and I pushed the tick all the way into the bottom. That'd be an interesting surprise for whoever got the $10 bill out of it. Sorry. After blessing the headwaters, I took off my shoes, rolled up my pants, and walked across the Mississippi River. The water was very cold. About halfway across, I felt compelled to dunk my head in the icy cold waters of the river. And it was awesome. You know, after the drive, I've been on the road for quite a few hours already now, and that it was refreshing. It was very nice, refresh, get the super cold waters on the head, and it was great. After exiting the river on the other side, I decided to find a good place to watch the sunset. So I drove south along the lake and found a place called Peace Pipe Lookout, which ended up being the best spot to watch the sunset across the lake. Too bad there weren't any elders. Peace Pipe. So here's where I was, and that's where the sun was. And this is just to give you an idea when you're looking at the pictures, how and what our orientation. I arrived at Peace Pipe Lookout and made my way down to the water's edge, where I admired the beauty of the lake and the serenity and peacefulness of the surroundings. It was awesome, quiet. There weren't any boats jetting by or anything like that, so it was really quiet. And I found a great moment of peace and solitude there. So as I was enjoying the peace, two beavers swam about 15 yards from me. And the first beaver smacked the water with its tail. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then as the first beaver went by, I'm kind of like back into the zone, and then it smacked the water with its tail. Smack. Like, oh, darn it. And then it did it 2 more times. And finally I'm like, you little naughty beaver. The sunset across the calm waters of the lake was spectacular. In this picture, a plane was flying by, but it kind of looks like a meteor falling out of the sky. And that I say that only because when I look back at these pictures, I found that, and that's after I had gone through and figured out the things I'm just about to tell you. Some of the pictures I took looked like a fireball. Yeah. Now, I'm going to admit that this picture it's a raw picture with the saturation turned up a bit. Not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to pull out the colors that you could see. And the reason why what really drew me to this was when I was taking the picture and I was looking at it through the camera, that's what it looked like. And I was like, that's cool. Oh my goodness, that's a fire. And I look up and it would look like that. And I'd look back down and it would look like that. I'm like, oh, these have got to come out, right? Well, when I get home, they look a lot like that until I bump the saturation up a little bit, and then I get the fireball. It was crazy. Beautiful, but crazy. As the sun set, a man in a boat went floating by. Just real slow. We had a short chat. He was probably about 50 yards out, but we talked as if we were standing next to each other. We didn't have, neither one of us had to raise our voice to hear each other. Right? You know, being on the water, it just carries or the sound carries really well across the water. So it was interesting. He wasn't running his engine and just floated by. As the first stars made their appearance, I decided it was time to head home. As I left Itasca, I was plotting my course and was compelled to drive to Bemidji because I was going to go to Bemidji originally and try to find some elders there, but I ended up not going that route. But something was compelling me. I had to go to Bemidji, so I was compelled to take about an hour's trip out of my way when I'm trying to get home in a hurry to go through Bemidji. So I follow the heart. I follow anything that compels me. If it to turn left here, I'll turn left there. Turn right here, turn right there. Got to go to Bemidji. And it said on it, got to go to Bemidji. And it was about an hour's worth out of my way. At this point, with the meteor at the crossroads on day 1, and then the image of a fireball on the final day, I felt I was being shown that a comet will impact Earth. The question now is when. I left the lake with the question in mind and drove to Bemidji. First thoughts included the tick and the $10 bill. Was it a timer? If so, what does the 10 represent? I drove through Bemidji and turned around at the Paul Bunyan statue, where I plotted a course home. And as I was plotting my course for Bemidji, I decided I wanted to take Highway 2 through the Chippewa National Forest. Got to drive through the forest. Chippewas. Say goodbye to the Chippewas. Go through the Chippewa National Forest. It's dark. It's not like I could see anything, but why not? So as I left Bemidji and was making my way to Cass Lake, I started asking the Lord, how could you reveal a specific date? How can you do that? Now, you can do anything. I get that. But how are you going to reveal a specific date? And it was, as I was asking that question, I was approaching Cass Lake, and I saw a road sign flashing. It wasn't flashing when I saw it. When I saw the sign, it stuck on begins May 14th. And it was stuck on that from the time I saw it until the time I drove by it. And I want to say that just as I was driving by it, it was flashing back to probably road work. Road work begins May 14th. I looked, as I was driving by the sign, I looked down at the time, and the time was 10:10. Later, I found this news release on the construction, which was dated May 10th. So I looked up the meaning of Cass, which is short for Cassandra. In this case, Cassandra is to excel, to shine. In Greek mythology, Cassandra was a Trojan princess who had the gift of prophecy. But it came with the curse that her prophecies would never be believed. And I fear, I know that I have been given prophecy here. I know I am delivering prophetic messages to you and everybody, anybody that will listen. And I don't know how to get the word out. I don't know what to do, but I think my greatest fear is that nobody's going to believe it. The rest of the drive home was spent in a daze as information poured in my head. I was numb the entire drive home, and my head just felt like it was expanding and expanding, and it was a weight that was just constant flow of information, and things started piecing themselves together, and the information, I'll skip on to the information. It was revealed to me that I will be returning to Turtle Mountain. The $10 pushing the tick in did represent a timer. What's still not clear exactly is what the 10 represents. What was clear was that chaos, darkness, and destruction are coming. And when chaos erupts, we are to flee to Turtle Mountain. And oddly enough, this brought to mind an old Disney movie that was recently remade, Escape to Witch Mountain. And it is fitting. The thought of this is fitting because of the chapel and what the chapel kind of represented before. But now, what you need to get fixed in your mind is escape to Turtle Mountain. Escape to Turtle Mountain. This will be a separating of the wheat from the chaff. You must choose to either rely on God or man. Unfortunately, most people are going to rely on man. Many will be lured into a police state and be forced to either accept a tag that will be a part of a new social credit system or forfeit your life. This is coming, and it's coming soon. You need to be mentally and spiritually ready and listening for guidance as our Father leads through inspiration. Remember, don't panic. Be calm. Open up to the Father in love and listen to that inner, still voice. Have only basic necessities ready for a quick evacuation. The way has been prepared, and our Father will take care of all needs. So the final path of the entire journey was about 41 hours worth of road time. Well over 2,571 miles were traveled. But I went back and I plotted the course just to kind of get an idea of how many miles I drove. I arrived home at 7 a.m. and surprised the boys who were just getting up. Becky wasn't up yet, and they wanted to make her breakfast for Mother's Day. I had made it home just in time for a Mother's Day surprise. So, next day, May 14th, what begins? So, of course, all this setting heavy on me. And I mean, I realized that there's been many months now between when this was given to me and me actually preparing and delivering this message. I didn't know whether I believed. I believed then, and I believe now. So what begins? What happened on May 14th? It was Israel's 70th birthday. And the U.S. moved its embassy to Jerusalem on May 14th. A couple of days later, I had a dream. And in the dream, someone handed me a handheld device. As I looked at the device, I heard a voice with authority say, "A man should seek my grace, not my bosom." Ooh, okay. Now, that dream is still vivid. I woke up. I didn't wake up immediately when I had the dream, but later when I woke up, the dream stuck with me. And that's why I'm sharing it, because I think it was a message to all of us. And I think it's funny how it was presented to me on a device. Because what do we see most people doing these days? What are you doing right now? What I have come to learn is that message means a lot more than stop looking at your device and listening to God. It's a prophetic message that has multiple layers. And it's another interesting thing to point out. When God speaks, when he says a word, it echoes. It never has one meaning. It has many meanings. And you need to wait. If you do get a word from the Lord, you need to wait and have patience and allow the Spirit to reveal the meaning of it. And I since all these things have started happening to me, I've come to the realization that it's not that a picture's worth 1,000 words. When God speaks, a word is worth 1,000 pictures. So, May 18th, we're still trudging. These are just days. Not very many days in part. It's going to start skipping forward a lot faster here shortly. I was at work. I returned to work when I got back, and it was Friday on May 18th. I shared the revelation with Bill and Amanda, and noted that I wasn't sure what was beginning on May 14th. I got the begins on May 14th. I got 10:10, and now, granted, first thing that came to mind was 10 month, 10 days. I got begins May 14th. Maybe it's 10 month, 10 days from May 14th, which would bring us to March 24th this year, 2019. So again, knowing that when a word is spoken, it echoes, I expect something on March 24th, 2019. Something. What? I don't know. But still, I don't know, back May 18th, several months back, what begins on May 14th. I told Bill about the confirmations of 10, and we started talking about the shootings at Santa Fe High School, where I went to school. Bill said that he'd heard that eight had died, but at this point, and that was preliminary. That was earlier, probably around, it was mid-afternoon when he'd heard it on the news in the car driving home. And he said at this point, he wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be 10 people that had died. So after arriving home, I immediately went looking at the news just to see, because, this is where I went to school. I wanted to see what happened. 10 confirmed, dead, 10 wounded. Not the kind of confirmation I really wanted to get. But nonetheless, it's definitely a confirmation because it even says 10 confirmed. But it goes on. It's not just 10. It's 10, 10. Because the confirmations that I get, it's the dual 10, 10. The person who committed this atrocity, you can tell, is being controlled by an evil spirit. You know, I pray for poor Demetrius. Now, I feel even worse for the people that suffered by his hand. But I also recognize that he's suffering at the hand of an evil spirit. And I pray for his soul. A couple of days later, I'm out in the backyard, and I've got a fire pit with tree stumps that we had a tree cut down, and I kept some of the bigger stumps to sit on around the fire pit. And I was moving the tree stumps, and they were infested with worms. And it immediately brought to mind wormwood from the Bible. May 22nd, I am praying and in meditation, and I asked Yeshua specifically. I put the message out to Yeshua in spirit. You know, can you give me a passage from Scripture that will help me kind of start to understand what's going on? And I heard quietly. I mean, it wasn't like a booming voice in my ear, but I could hear a voice inside my head. I heard the voice, Jeremiah 18:8. And it was clear. I knew that I had just, instead of opening the Bible, I got a message to go to this. So I did. And the message is, if that nation against whom I have pronounced turn from their evil, I will repent of the evil that I thought to do unto them. That's judgment. What I think is interesting is when I look at the chapter, Jeremiah 18, 1 through 8, I get my name. Jeremiah 18:8, the word which came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. Then the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter? Saith Yahuwah, Behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in mine hand, O house of Israel. At what instance I shall speak concerning a nation, and concerning a kingdom, to pluck it up, and to pull it down, and to destroy it. If that nation against whom I have pronounced turn from their evil, I will repent of the evil that I thought to do unto them. Destruction is coming. House of Israel are true believers in God, in Yeshua even. We are all the house of Israel, those who believe. He's speaking to us. He has let us know. He's let us know that something's coming. He's told us what's coming. In June, I continued to get repeating messages of 10:10. And during the month of June, I got a confirmation on the number 281, on 281. And if you remember, that was actually a confirmation that was given during my trip up as well, because I was on 281, and well, that has its own. In July, the frequency of 10:10 confirmations were increasing. And I was pondering what the deal is with the pyramids. Of course, this is an ongoing question in my mind for many years now. You know, who really built the pyramids? You know, massive multi-ton, 20-ton rock. You're going to tell me that they moved those things and put them perfectly so that it, no. It is not a tomb. I'm getting off track. My point is that, so what is, you know, what's up with the pyramids? I get in their alignment, you know, with the solstice and so forth, and with the Earth's axis and so forth, and also with the stars, and with, you know, the lion pointing to, or the Sphinx pointing east, and it was revealed to me that it's God's celestial clock. You know, I even think that it's definitely possible that God built the pyramids, because man can't. We still can't do it. In August, I was continuing to get the 1010 confirmations, and I noticed that on August 4th, it was 10 months and 10 days past the Revelation 12 sign, and which marked the anniversary of the temple's destruction in 70 AD. Interesting 1010 confirmation pointing to the temple and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of weight behind this 1010 confirmation. A lot of weight. And interesting one here, while working on cleaning out a hoarder's house, I was measuring to be recarpeted. And as I ducked it down into the corner, I noticed that it came to 10 feet, 10 inches. Okay. I dropped the, you know, I didn't really drop, so I rolled it back up. I walked out. I'm like, I got to take a break. Sorry. I need to, well, my head was definitely spinning. So I worked a lot with Woody, and Woody, he was kind of funny. And I would, you know, with the 1010s and so forth, I would, like the Chippewa earlier on, I would go, what's up with the Chippewa? Here now I'm going, what's 1010? You know, I want to know what's 1010. So I'd yell it out, what's 1010? And after a while, after me doing that a few times, Woody started piping back at me, 20. The two 10s equal 20. So I'd go, what's 1010? He'd go, the 2 are 20. And so that happened a few times. And then from that point on, every time I asked, what's 1010? I'd hear 220. 1010, 220. 1010, 220. 1010, 220. Then one evening, I came across a YouTube video titled Vision of Incoming Fireball. Of course, when I saw that, I had to take a look at it, so I watched it. But after watching it, I started, you know, I was taking a closer look at it. I went and looked at it was 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, 2:20. It also had a comment from a poster named Annie Clay, which mentioned wormwood, which was posted about 14 hours before I pulled it up, which is 14 is an interesting number, 14 meaning victory, right? So I've got wormwood, 1010, 220. This one doesn't say 1010, but 220, wormwood, victory. Is anybody with me still? If so, please help me get this message out. Then I had a troubling dream. I was standing in a crowded field, looking up at the sky, when a golden orb went racing by. And the golden orb had looked like it was it had cracks in it with what looked like lightning. I'm going to let you see that again, because it was just like that. And I had the sense that I was facing south, doing an east to west. So this would be east to west potentially. You know, it's not like I had a compass. So, but that's where my feelings are. And when I look back at the field, many of the people that were there were gone. And those I could see were seeking shelter and were afraid. And I urge, you know, I had the urge to cry out to him, don't be afraid. It's Jesus, it's Yeshua. And I didn't understand why they were all afraid. My heart was lifted. I was, you know, it's like, that's cool. And I looked down and everybody's going crazy and, you know, scattering and looking for shelter. I didn't understand why they were all afraid. And then I looked up and I saw a glowing orange object. And the closer I looked at it, I could see a red center with a yellow halo around it. Needless to say, that dream troubled me. Thus saith Yahuwah, tell the people, they are at the crossroads. I have prepared a place in the wilderness. I have shown you the path that leads to blessings. But they will be stubborn and say, we will not follow it. People, we all have a choice to make. Will you follow it? Do you hear the message? Take it in prayer. Ask, but be ready. Be ready. What do you see coming? Remember, Yeshua is the key. Insert the key. Unlock salvation. Unlock knowledge. In order to unlock the knowledge, you have to believe, you have to follow, you have to practice love. You have to produce fruits of love in order to remain at peace. You need to forgive. Forgiveness is, it's almost the top importance. If you can't forgive, then those feelings that you hold of unforgiveness, that's what's going to keep you locked in this world. It's like your chains of darkness. Unlock them and forgive and love. And remember, your words reveal your heart. Do not allow your emotions to rule your speech. Hold your tongue and ask for God's guidance. Be patient and allow Him time to speak through you. If you can quiet your mind in a conversation and wait until you feel an appropriate word come to mind, you will be a much wiser person. When you respond with your emotions, it is not from God, but it is your own vanity speaking, and it is by this you will be judged. Question everything with an open heart. Weigh everything on the balance of love. Balance of love. I want to share with you that balance. My youngest son actually gets it. Will you get it? The balance is like a weight. When you get fed a line of bull, it's like there's a weight weighing down on your heart. When you act improperly, it weighs down on your heart. You can feel it if you're actively seeking and at peace. It is easy to tell the difference between a truth and a lie. The truth will float. It won't weigh you down. And when you speak and you act appropriately, you continue to walk in peace. But as soon as you start tainting with some kind of untruth, whatever that is, or weaving darkness, it weighs on your soul. It weighs on it, and then peace disappears. It's gone. Always seek and speak the truth, and become one with the holy word of truth in love, and find peace. And with love in your heart, take the gift of salvation and walk in peace, girded in truth and righteousness, shielded in faith, and speak with the flaming sword of the Spirit of truth. End of part 6, return. Next up, part 7, conclusion. Much love.